Good morning, everyone. I'm Mrs. Bearden. I'm a librarian from St. Tammany Parish Schools. Welcome back to my story time. I'm so glad you could join me. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the wheel and the axle in science. I know you all have talked about simple machines at some point, such as the screw, the pulley, the inclined plane. But today our story has to do with the wheel and axle. And I'm wondering, how many of you have ever ridden on a Ferris wheel before? I want you to think about where you were when you rode it. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you feel on the inside and the outside? It is exciting, and you can see so much from up in the air when you're on a Ferris wheel. But I want you to know that the Ferris wheel was invented a long time ago by a man named Mr. Ferris. Take a look at this picture behind me. What do you see? Right, it's the Eiffel Tower. That's right, it's located in Paris, France. So the Eiffel Tower in 1889 was the tallest building in the world. It's hard to imagine because our buildings are so much taller than that now. Now look at this new picture behind me. This is the 10-story home insurance building in Chicago. In 1885, it was the tallest skyscraper. Now imagine that. Skyscrapers are way taller than 10 stories today. So if you can imagine that the Eiffel Tower is the tallest building and the home insurance building is the tallest skyscraper, then you are ready for today's story. Let's get started. Without further ado, our story, Mr. Ferris and His Wheel. Written by Catherine Gibbs Davis and illustrated by Gilbert Ford. It was only 10 months until the next World's Fair, but everyone was still talking about the star attraction of the last World's Fair. At 81 stories, France's Eiffel Tower was the world's tallest building. Its pointy iron and air tower soared so high, the visitors to the top could see Paris in one breathtaking sweep. Completed in 1889, the Eiffel Tower stood at 986 feet, surpassing America's Washington Monument to become the world's tallest man-made structure. Now it was America's turn to impress the world at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. But what could outshine the famous French Tower? And who would build it? A nationwide contest was announced. Before TV and the internet, people from around the globe gathered at the World's Fairs to share their different ways of life and new technologies. Tasty inventions such as the hamburger and the Cracker Jack first appeared there. Well, contest drawings poured in from all around the country, but most of the plans looked like the Eiffel Tower, only bigger. The fair judges said no to every last one. Was this really the best that American engineers could muster? To an ambitious young civil engineer, this contest was more than a dare. It was a matter of national pride. George Washington Gale Ferris, Jr. had already designed some of the country's biggest bridges, tunnels, and roads. He could never allow a French tower to overshadow America's World's Fair. Why? Hadn't the United States built the world's first skyscraper? George had seen the elegant steel frame rise 10 stories high with his own eyes. Supported by a metal frame instead of solid walls, Chicago's home insurance building was the world's first skyscraper. Bird cages were the inspiration for the metal frame. Fancy that. George had an idea for a structure that would dazzle and move, not just stand still like the Eiffel Tower, Back at his drawing board in Pittsburgh, he and his engineering partner, William Greenough, measured and remeasured. A mistake of even an inch could bring their invention crashing down. George arrived in Chicago and made his case to the construction chief of the fair. The chief stared at George's drawing. No one had ever created a fair attraction that huge and that complicated. The chief told George that his structure was so flimsy it would collapse. George had heard enough. He rolled up his drawings and said, "You're an architect, sir. I am an engineer." George knew something the chief did not. His invention would be delicate looking and strong. It would be both stronger and lighter than the Eiffel Tower because it would be built with an amazing new metal, steel. George was a steel expert, and his structure would be made of a steel alloy. Alloys combine a super strong mix of hard metal with two or more chemical elements. The judges could not decide. Fall turned to winter as they dilly-dallied. In only 4 months, the fair would open, and it still had no star attraction. Finally desperate, they agreed to give George's far-fetched idea a try. But they would not give him 1 penny for the materials to build it. The clock was ticking. George dashed from bank to bank asking for help. But when he began describing his invention, the lenders, they laughed him into the streets. So George used his own savings and convinced a few wealthy investors to join him. Still short of money, he boldly went ahead and ordered the parts he needed from a dozen different steel mills. In January 1893, George's construction crew began work on the foundation. Shovels broke as the workers tried digging into the frozen ground. It was one of the most brutally cold winters in all of Chicago's history. "Blast!" George ordered his crew to dynamite the icy earth. But what they found underneath was scarier still. Quicksand. The deadly muck could suck man or machine under in seconds. The frost at the wheel site was 3 feet deep, the quicksand 20 feet in depth, and saturated with water, said Luther V. Rice, construction and operations manager. Pumps were kept running night and day to keep out the water, and live steam had to be used to thaw the sand and broken stone. George and his brave workers kept frantically digging. Finally, 35 feet down, they hit solid ground. They planted 2 huge steel towers deep into the earth, bolted them to crossbars of steel, and poured in cement to hold it all in place. Then they carefully lowered a 70-ton axle with fittings, the weight of a Mogul locomotive train, between them. This sturdy structure would hold the gigantic invention steady in even the strongest of Chicago's winds. At 45 feet long, the axle, a metal rod, was the largest piece of steel ever forged, and a boy helped to hammer it into shape at the Bethlehem Iron Works. As time grew shorter, freight trains from all over the country chugged onto the fairgrounds, loaded with more than 100,000 parts. Workers hurried to fit all the pieces together like a giant Lego toy. Hammers pounded non-stop in the breathless race to finish. Responsible for the wheel's many structural details, George's partner was losing hope. See the people down here? In the speech bubbles it says, "It's undignified. Stand back, dear. It might collapse. Bet you the wind will blow Ferris's folly into the lake." "Nope, It'll fall first. It's going up way too fast. They say Ferris has wheels in his head. Frequently I was discouraged and ready to give up, but through the encouragement of Mr. Ferris, work was always resumed. That was written by William Greenough, his partner. Finally, with only 2 months left, the last section was bolted into place, and there stood a perfect, enormous circle, 834 feet in circumference, rising 265 feet above the ground, and designed to move with the precision of the smallest watch. It looked exactly how George had first imagined it back as a boy on his ranch in Nevada. I learned something in this story. This is amazing. Living near the shore of Nevada's Carson River, George had often watched the water wheel turn around and round. Many times he had imagined shrinking to the size of one of his toy soldiers and hitching a ride up, up, and away in one of its wooden buckets. That's where George got the idea for the Ferris wheel. That's fascinating. Still, the biggest test was yet to come. The monster wheel had to spin, and George's elegant passenger cars still had to be hung. The tireless crew worked day and night to attach them. Each was the size of a whole living room, with enormous picture windows and 40 velvet seats. George's wheel worked like a bicycle wheel. Both are supported by skinny, flexible rods called spokes. As the wheel turns, the spokes work together to share the weight. These are called tension wheels. On June 21st, 1893, opening day finally arrived. Think about that. He started building it in January. It's now June. Didn't take him long to build that big Ferris wheel. 2,000 people gathered as flags waved. George took the stage and dedicated his wheel to the noble profession of engineering. Then George's wife presented him with a beautiful golden whistle. George and his wife stepped proudly into car number 1, followed by their nervous but excited guests. Uniformed guards closed and locked the door. Would the wheel work? Why do you think they were nervous? The guests were nervous because they weren't sure if this was going to work or even be safe. But Mr. Ferris, he was confident of his work. George blew the golden whistle. 2,000 tons of steel began to turn around as the soft clanking of a large chain drove the mighty machine up, up, up. The car quietly floated above the mud and the noise. 2 steam engines, an extra one in case one broke, made the wheel turn. George had hidden them under the wooden platform where the riders boarded. As the car was lifted higher, everyone rose from the velvet seats and crowded to the windows. Spread out below them was a dizzying sweep of the fairgrounds, the city of Chicago, sparkling Lake Michigan, and even glimpses of 3 faraway states. Below, more cars were loaded, and after the people had gone 2 times around and had 20 glorious airborne minutes in motion, powerful brakes brought the wheel to a whisper-soft stop. When the conductor called all out, everyone begged to go around again. The wheel is safe. The news raced through the fairgrounds, through the city of Chicago, and across the country. All summer, visitors from around the world traveled to Chicago's World Fair. It didn't matter whether one was a senator, a farmer, a boy, or girl. Everyone wanted to take a spin on the magnificent wheel. Adventurous couples asked to get married on it. On hot, steamy days, the wheel was the perfect place to escape up, up into the cooling breezes. All you needed was 50 cents. During the 19 weeks the wheel was in operation, 1.5 million passengers rode it. It revolved more than 10,000 times, withstood gale force winds and storms, and it did not need not even one repair. I'd say it was safe. At night, George's Ferris wheel became a magical glowing circle with 3,000 electric light bulbs, another brand new invention. As the Queen of the Midway made its stately rotation, so did the seasons. Soon a fall chill filled the air, and fair visitors began to thin out. In the late 1800s, homes were still lit with kerosene lamps and candles. The Chicago World's Fair helped reassure people that electricity was safe. At night, farmers and sailors from as far away as 40 miles could see the wheel's spectacular blaze of lights. On October 26, 1893, just before midnight, the immense twinkling, spinning circle slowed to its final stop. The Chicago World's Fair was over. George had called his creation a monster wheel, but his investors renamed it after its inventor, the Ferris wheel. The Chicago Fair, or the White City, inspired two more magical places: the Emerald City in the classic children's book The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum, and Disneyland. Walt Disney's father was a construction worker on the fair. He told his son stories about the dreamlike city he had helped build, and young Walt grew up to build the famous amusement parks that stay open all year round. That's interesting. Visitors returned to their homes to tell the story of the world's greatest ride, and before long, copies of the Ferris wheel began popping up all around the world. In 1894, the next Ferris wheel appeared in California on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Lit up at night, it was the first landmark seen by ships finding their way home. Today, Ferris wheels are the most familiar and beloved carnival ride at state fairs and amusement parks. A ride on one still feels like flying to the moon. And oh, the view. Since 1893, there have been several tallest ever Ferris wheels, and the race continues with proposed new record holders for the world's tallest, including the New York wheel at 630 feet and the Dubai Eye at 690 feet. And there is a picture of Mr. Ferris. The end. Well, George Washington Gale Ferris had a lot of perseverance, meaning he didn't give up. No matter what happened or what people said, he still kept moving along and believed in himself. It's a wonderful trait to have. Now for your activity. The World's Fair was designed as a place for people all over the world to get together and share different ideas and new ways of life. I want you to think, if there was a World's Fair today here in the United States of America, what do you think would or should be a part of it? Share those ideas with us. Go to stpsb.org and you will find 3 ways in which you could submit your pictures or your drawings or your writings to share with us what you think could be a part or should be a part of the next World's Fair if it were held right here in the United States of America. Thank you for joining me today for Mr. Ferris and His Wheel. And remember to keep learning and keep reading. And now a message from Burrow. Burrow says, keep learning and keep reading. Right, Burrow?
Hi, my name is Lindsay Collard, and I am a 3rd grade teacher in the St. Tammany Parish School System. Last week you worked on writing a personal narrative. Today I'm going to teach you how to add inner thinking into your writing. Now, inner thinking is a strategy that helps us to elaborate and say more in our writing. We add inner thinking to tell what the character is feeling inside of their head. But before we get started, let's do a quick review on what a narrative is. Remember, personal narratives tell a true story. You're going to use pronouns like I, me, my, we. They have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, dialogue throughout our narratives, and we want to use transition words that help show a sequence of events. Also important is remember to write on the small moments when we're doing our personal narratives. You can think about the big picture. So think about a watermelon as being our big picture. An example of a big picture might be going to Florida. What you want to do is zoom in. And when you zoom in on that big picture, you see all these tiny moments that are represented by the seeds of the watermelon. Pick one of those tiny moments and stretch them out. So if my big picture is going to Florida, maybe my small moment could be waiting in line to see Mickey Mouse, and I write about that small moment. Now that we have our personal narratives finished, we always want to go back and improve in our writings. So you ask yourself, okay, well, what could I add to my writing to make it better? And when we talk about what could I add, we're looking at inner thinking, action, details, and dialogue. And in today's lesson, we're going to focus in on that inner thinking part of the I add strategy. Adding inner thinking to your small moment story. Now, inner thinking, you state the thoughts you were having at that exact moment in time. And writers should express their thoughts at specific parts in the story so that the reader can understand what it is we were going through during that time. I am going to read you the beginning of a small moment narrative about my first time going to track practice. Time to line up for track, Miss Thomas said to the class. I stood up, pushed in my chair, and walked to my spot in line. My heart was beating fast, and I had a huge smile on my face as we walked downstairs to get ready for track practice. I could see the crowd of people ready to watch from the second floor. I'd never ran track at school before. I practiced running against my brother over the summer, I told my friend Katie. Me too, she whispered. All right, girls, go change, Mr. Nichols said. Now, we're going to analyze my personal narrative, and when we do this, we're going to use some colors. So in these next few slides, you'll see how we color code my narrative with dialogue, action, and show not tell feelings. But before I show you my color-coded narrative, take a look again at this narrative and see if you can find the dialogue, the action, and the show not tell feelings. As you can see in my narrative, my dialogue is underlined in purple, my action is underlined in green, and my show not tell feelings are underlined in blue, but there isn't any inner thinking. Remember, inner thinking lets the reader know what you are thinking inside of your head. So now let's add some inner thinking into this story. I'm going to think back to when this story happened. What was I thinking inside of my head? What was I thinking that I didn't say out loud? Now remember, it's okay to create inner thinking if you don't remember exactly what you were thinking at that moment. Okay, so my narrative takes place on the first day of track practice. What do you think I might have been thinking? You can pause the video here to come up with some of your own ideas. Great. Some of my thoughts are that I could have been thinking, are there going to be any teams here? I wondered. I thought, I am so excited to get started. Or maybe even, I've been waiting since fifth grade to be on a track team, I thought. Or, I hope I have my track shoes, I thought to myself. Now I can choose one or two of these ideas to add to my story. I want to add inner thinking to two places in my story, so I think I've been waiting since fifth grade to be on the track team could go near the beginning because that's what I was thinking when we were walking down the stairs. And then maybe I thought, I'm so excited to get started, is what I was thinking when I got closer to track practice. So I'm going to add that towards the end of my narrative after, all right, girls, go change, Mr. Nichols said. And as you can see in these examples, that your inner thinking is punctuated the same way as dialogue. So here you can see my inner thinking has been added to my story, and I have it underlined in yellow. If you'd like, you can pause the video here and reread the story. Remember, inner thinking is a great elaboration strategy that helps us to say more in our writing and helps the reader to get a better understanding of our small moment stories. I can't wait for you to try this out in your writings today. Have a great day.
What's up? It's Miss B. I'm an STPPS 4th grade teacher, and today we are going to talk about area. So I have my cutting board here I took straight from my kitchen, and I wanted to know how many 1-inch slices of cucumbers could I fit on this cutting board. So I would line them up right next to each other across my entire cutting board, and I wanted to know how many would be on there. So to do that, I'm going to solve for area, because I'm looking at all of this surface right here and I want to fill it up with 1-inch slices of cucumbers. So to do that, we find our area. And to find our area of a rectangle, we solve for length times width. So our area is multiplying one side of our length by the other side of our width, okay? So to do that, I'm going to take my cutting board and my handy dandy measuring tape, and I'm gonna measure. So I'm gonna start with one side. Okay. And one side is equal to 13 inches. So our length is 13 inches. So on my equation, where I see that L for length, I'm gonna write 13 inches. And I'm gonna multiply that by whatever our width is. So again, I'm gonna take my cutting board and I'm gonna take my measuring tape and I'm gonna measure. Okay, and that is equal to 9 inches, okay? So our width is, 9 inches. So to find out what my total area is, I'm gonna multiply 13 inches times 9 inches. You can solve this using a standard algorithm, or you can solve it using an area model, whatever you would like. So I'm gonna solve it here. I'm gonna use a standard algorithm, but you're more than welcome to use any strategy. So I'm gonna line up my ones place and my tens place. And I'm going to multiply that together. I'm gonna start in my ones place, 9 times 3, and 9 times 3 gives me 27. So I'm gonna bring down that 7 and carry my 2. And then I'm gonna multiply 9 times 1, which is 9, and I'm gonna add my 2. 9 plus 2 gives me 11, and I'm gonna bring that down. So 13 plus 9 gives me 117. When we multiply inches by inches, we get inches squared or square inches. So to figure out how many 1 inch cucumbers I can fit 117 square inch cucumbers on my cutting board. Thanks for coming today. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye. Hi everyone, my name is Miss B. I'm an STPPS 4th grade teacher, and I'm so excited you could be here with us today. Today we're going to talk about perimeter. So I have this picture that I framed, and I want to put a snowflake border around my frame. But I'm not quite sure how to figure out the perimeter of my picture. So what we're going to do today is we're going to solve it. So when you're finding the perimeter of an object, whether it be a square, a rectangle, a pentagon, an octagon, maybe you see a stop sign and you want to figure out what the perimeter of that stop sign is, all you need to do is measure the outer edges. So if we're finding the perimeter of a square, our equation or our formula for that is P for perimeter is equal to 4 sides, or length plus width plus width. All right, so to find that, I have my formula I'm gonna keep right here. I have my handy dandy tape measure. If you have a ruler, you can use a ruler as well. I have what I'm going to measure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape measure and I'm going to go from one end to the other, and I'm going to measure that length. Okay, that one side. So when I measure, I get a measurement of, if you can see, 10 inches. So on my length here, I'm gonna replace that L with 10 inches, okay? The great thing about rectangles is that your two lengths that are parallel to each other are also equivalent. So I know that my second L is also equal to 10 inches. If you weren't sure, you could just measure that second length as well. So I'm gonna add 10 inches, okay? And then I'm gonna find what my widths are. Again, with that same measuring tape or ruler, you're gonna take whatever object you're measuring and you're gonna measure that opposite side. So we measure the top, and we know that the top is equivalent to the bottom, both equaling 10 inches. And now I'm gonna measure my sides, my widths. Okay? And my widths are equal to 1 foot. And we know that 1 foot is equivalent to 12 inches. So I know that my width is equal to 12 inches. So where I see a W for my width, I'm gonna put 12 inches. And again, because it's a rectangle and we know that our parallel sides and our rectangle are equivalent. And again, if you weren't sure, just measure that other side and it'll give you 12 inches. So that last W is 12 inches, okay? So then to figure out what my total perimeter is, so I can figure out how many my snowflake border, how long of a snowflake border I can put around my picture will be, I'm gonna add them together. So I know that 10 inches plus 10 inches is equal to 20 inches because 10 plus 10 is equal to 20. And inches plus inches, we're just adding on some inches. And then I'm gonna add my 12 inches plus my 12 inches. And I know that 12 plus 12 is equal to 24. And inches plus inches, again, is just inches. Okay, now I have 20 inches plus 24 inches. Well, I know that if I break 24 inches into 20 plus 4 inches, I know that 20 plus 20 is equal to 40 inches, and 40 plus 4 is equal to 44 inches. So my perimeter is 44 inches. So the perimeter of my picture, or my picture frame, is 44 inches. So now I know how much snowflake border I can put around my picture frame. Thanks. Thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to see you on our next one. Bye.
Hi kids, happy testing. I'm Miss Alfred and I am a 3rd grade teacher in St. Tammany Parish. Today we're going to talk about some test taking strategies that will be easy to remember, and I'll show you how you can put them into practice. First, we're going to start off with, how do you relax? I like to relax in different places. When I think of relaxation, I like to go in my brain to my bedroom and get in my bed with the blankets and the pillows. Or I can go take a walk, listen to the birds, feel the breeze, and just be in nature. Or I also like to go to yoga classes and focus on my relaxation through a physical activity and stretch my muscles into powerful poses. But my ultimate place to relax is the beach. I love the beach. Putting my toes in the sand, listening to the water splashing back and forth. Oh, I love the beach. I can't wait to go back. But you're probably asking, what does that have to do with taking a test? Well, before I answer that, I want you to think about it. What do you do first when you get a test? Usually you write your name on the top, or you read the directions, or you look at the examples. But there's something else that you need to do. You need to be calm and relax. Read, examine, label, always check, and X out. Those are the strategies that we're going to use for test taking, because yes, it is a serious matter to take a test. So first, let's start with the R. Always read. Read the questions carefully first. Before you read any of the passages or any of the text, you want to read the questions. This sets your attention and focuses on what the test is going to be about. It also gives you a purpose of what to read for, what you're reading for. Because you're not reading for entertainment. You're reading to get a good grade and to pass this test. So you want to read the questions first. And then when it is time to go and read the passage, the answers will just pop out at you. And you'll be so surprised. You'll be like, yeah, I remember reading that in the questions. So you want to always read the questions first. Our next strategy and next part is to examine. You want to look at every answer choice. You want to make sure that you understand what the answers are. So I've been teaching for a little while now, and I've been on several test making teams. And I learned a lot about the answer choices that they give you. They're trying to trick you. That's the part of testing. They want to trick you. They want to see if they can outsmart the tester. Well, you're going to know they're not going to outsmart you. So they give you several different choices. They give you one that's so outlandish that you don't like, what are they even talking about? Or they give you some that's like, just pop out, like say, yes, that's the answer. But you have to make sure you go back and check that one. Or sometimes they give you some that's super close to each other and be like, maybe it's this one or maybe it's that one. So you have to be able to read and examine all the answer choices before you make an answer, before you select an answer. Then you want to label. Label your information when you're reading your text in the passages. You want to go back. Now you use what you've read, and you're going to underline, circle, highlight, star, number sign, anything so you can know where to find the answers. Because I don't want to reread the text. I don't know if you do, but I don't want to do it again. I just want to go back and glance at what I've already read and use that. And that's why we label or annotate. And so in my class, we say annotate, annotate, annotate. It's very important. And when I think of annotating, I think of the buddy bench. I don't know if you know what the buddy bench is, but at our school, we have this bench on the playground where when kids feel lonely or they need a friend to play with, they go sit there and somebody comes and plays with them. So when you get a text or a passage, it's empty, it's blank, it's lonely, it's sitting on the buddy bench. You get it, you start reading it and annotating. Now you're being its friend. You're being a buddy. You want to be the buddy to your text. The text is your friend. And so you want to label all the way and so your texts don't feel lonely. The next step is to always check your work. After you finish, you say, "Oh, teacher, I'm finished." And she usually says, "Did you check your work?" And now you know you're going to check your work because it's very important. You want to re-look at your test with a new set of eyes. You want to be able to check it as if you're checking your friend's work, or you want to check it and act like you're the teacher checking your work. You want to make sure that it's done correctly. And another way you could check is to start from the back and go work your way back to the front and make sure that you've answered all the questions correctly. Make sure that if it asks you for more than one answer choice, you selected more than one. Or if you have to transfer your answers to an answer document, you've transferred the correct answer and on the correct slot on the answer document. So you always want to check your work, and this prevents you from skipping some of the questions as well. So that was that. And the last one is to X out those answer choices that you know are absolutely incorrect. I like to call those bogus answers. They're just out there just to be out there, just hanging fun, hanging out, being cool. And so you don't want that one. Just throw that one out the window. You said that's just ridiculous. So you want to X out the ridiculous answer choices. So now you're ready. You can relax and take any test and keep it going, keep it moving. So you want to remember, read, examine, label, always check, and X out. This, when you do that, you won't be like the little boy. Now, let's put it into practice. You can go and find some practice tests on the Louisiana Department website at louisianabelieves.com. On there, you're going to click on the Parent Toolbox. From there, you're going to go to the Family Support Library at the top right. Click on that, and then the second bullet, there's the practice tests. You have paper tests, or you can take it online. You have the option, but also it's by grade level and subject area. And then you could just take the test, and there are actually answer keys as well. So good luck. You got this. Just remember to relax. Read, examine, label, always check, and X out. Thank you for joining us. You can find other videos from STPP TV or on our website, stpsb.org. Again, thank you and continue learning.
Sams, and I am a St. Tammany Parish Public School health and PE teacher. I'm so glad you could join me. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to command rhythm and timing by creating a movement sequence to music, which is standard 1 for PE. I have a guest with me today, Mr. Cupid, who created the Cupid Shuffle. Together, we will teach you how to do the Cupid Shuffle and then give you different variations to challenge yourselves. So get up and let's get ready to sweat. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Cupid.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited about this. This is a dance that I created in 2006 called the Cupid Shuffle. It's become a worldwide phenomenon, and also it's being used in several academic curriculums all over the country. So what I'm gonna do right now is teach you the basics of how to do the Cupid Shuffle. It's 4 steps to your right, 4 steps to your left. Kick 4 times, alternating legs, and then you turn to the left. So we're gonna go ahead and do the beginning variation of the Cupid Shuffle. All right. To the right, 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 left, 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 kick, alternate legs, kick, kick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you repeat the same movements. It's a 4-wall line dance, so you would want to face, when you're doing it, you have to face each wall of the room every time to complete a full circle of the Cupid Shuffle. There's also different variations that you can do to add aerobic movements to them to kind of get people going to a second level to kind of get your heart rate up. So one of the ways that we do it is we do 2 squats to the right, 2 squats to the left, 4 high knees, and then turn, okay? So we'll go through that. All right, 5, 6, 7, to the right, to the right, to the right, to the right, to the left, to the left. High knees, kick, 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 and turn, 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 turn. 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a good way to get your heart rate up and advance the Cupid Shuffle for a more aerobic appeal. Alright, so now if you want to really add some excitement to your workout, what we can do is the Cupid Shuffle Plank Challenge. This is a higher level of the Cupid Shuffle, so what we're going to do is demonstrate how to do it. Alright, here we go. Alright. 5, 6, 7, to the right, 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 left, 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 kick, 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 walk it by yourself, walk it by yourself. Here we go. 5, 6, 7 to the right. Move down, down, do your dance. We got a brand new dance. Do your dance, do your dance. Down, down, do your dance, do your dance. Down, do your dance, do your dance. They say I'm a rapper, and I say no. They say what you do and try to do, somebody go. Just let the music come from my soul, so I know why people can't.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Cupid. You did a great job. Some of the movements we did today are advanced, so please make sure you are conditioned enough before you try those movements. Thank you for watching as we learned about creating a movement sequence to music. Remember to keep watching other videos like this one so we can all keep learning together. You can watch lessons daily on STPPS TV or on our website at stpsb.org. See you again soon.
Hi guys, it's me, Miss Stein. Welcome back. This week in our writing, we are going to be interviewing a family relative. And we're going to learn a little bit about their culture or maybe a little bit more about our own. So I'm about to call my sister who lives in Turkey and learn a little bit about Turkish culture. I want to know what things are the same and what things are different. So let's give her a call. All right, here we are in Slidell, which is in the state of Louisiana. Now, Louisiana is in the country of the United States of America. Now, we are going to travel all the way to Turkey, which is in both Europe and Asia. Ooh, all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to Turkey. Now, my sister lives in the city of Istanbul, so let's see where that is compared to Turkey. There she is, right on the border between Europe and Asia. Let's remember what we said we were going to do today. I can take notes on someone's culture by interviewing a relative. Hi, sis.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Staying safe?
Yeah, staying safe in my home.
Okay, that's good. So I wanted to ask you a few questions about Turkish culture.
Ooh, I'm ready for you. Let's go.
Okay.
Woo!
Well, me too.
Wow! Like your hat, sis.
I like yours too.
Thanks.
Okay.
We both have stars on our hats.
Oh yeah, we do. I have 50 of them. How many do you have?
Just one, but mine's really big.
We both look fabulous in our country's hats.
Yes, we do.
Number one, I was wondering, does Turkey have any special celebrations or traditions?
Wow, a big celebration is coming up. We have the 23rd of April, which is Children's Day. And there's lots of parades and lots of special events where children get to go outside and do different things. Of course, this year it's going to be a little bit different for everyone, but normally it's a lot of fun. And all the children get presents.
Wow, that's cool.
We decorate the whole city, and we have lots of ceremonies. Kids come together, and they show all their talents. It's a big talent show. But this year, everyone's going to be celebrating from home. So my students decorated their rooms, and we're going to come all together and sing songs and dance from home.
Oh, wow, that sounds really fun.
And every child gets a present.
Oh, wow. Here in America, we have something similar called Global School Play Day. It's where the whole day at school, kids get to play and just kind of enjoy being a kid at school.
Awesome. I wish we had a day like that.
Well, it sounds like Children's Day is pretty fun. My next question to you is that, do you have any customs that you do in Turkey?
Well, when you enter a home, you have to take off your shoes, and then the first thing a host does is open your hands, and they would pour some hand sanitizer. This one smells like lemon. So good. You pour it on your hands, and you rub it together so your hands are all clean. Some people rub it on their face too, because in Turkey, it's going to kiss on both sides of your cheek.
Oh, wow. I think with everything that's going on with the pandemic, that might be something that we pick up too, because here in America, you know, we don't usually take off our shoes before walking into someone's house, and we definitely don't always sanitize our hands. We just give everyone a handshake and hug. But I think Turkey's on to some good customs that we might need to pick up.
Yeah, and at the moment, people don't kiss on the cheeks anymore just to stay safe.
Okay.
Yeah, those are two really good practices.
My next question to you is, what language do you speak in Turkey?
We speak Turkish. Would you like to learn some Turkish?
Oh, yeah.
So, to say hello, you say merhaba.
Merhaba.
Oh, you're an expert. Good job.
Thanks. Merhaba.
And to say goodbye, you need to say güle güle.
Say that again.
Güle güle.
Dule dule. Oh, the good sound. Gule gule.
And do you want to know what that means?
Goodbye.
It means happy, happy, or smile, smile.
Smile, smile. Usually I feel sad when I say goodbye.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to mean go happily wherever you're going.
Oh, that's pretty nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really nice. All right.
Thank you.
My final question to you is, what is a traditional Turkish food?
Ooh, there are lots of different types of food, but one of my favorites is the Turkish kebab. It's meat on a stick.
Is it meat on a stick, so it's kind of like our American corn dog?
No, it's not really like a corn dog because it's kind of like hamburger on a stick, but the hamburger is filled with lots of spices.
Interesting.
And then after we eat the meat on the stick, we like to eat baklava. It's so delicious.
Whoa, that looks really sweet. My teeth are already hurting.
Yeah, you gotta brush your teeth after you eat these.
Okay, well, thank you for answering my questions. I know it's getting late over there in Turkey, so you're already ready for dinner. What?
Yeah, it is. It's nighttime. It's dinner time. I made lamb chops.
Oh, nice. I think we might have pork chops maybe for dinner. We'll see.
We don't eat pork in Turkey.
And I don't eat lamb. Okay, smile, smile.
Smile, smile.
I now have my notes, my interview notes from talking to my sister and learning about Turkish culture. Tomorrow I'm going to add on to my notes by providing illustrations to really get my thoughts together before I begin writing my cultural book. Okay, that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.